Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and this is my video about what's wrong with 2009's Ninja Assassin. And by the way, this title gimmick I used doesn't require anything to be really that wrong with the movie. Technically, very few movies are perfect. So this is one of those movies where you're like, oh yeah, that movie came out. Yeah, it was 2009. Oh wow, that was a while ago. So this was a weird movie in that I have these very strong memories of it for no reason. It's kind of fun. It's pretty trashy. It was not a big hit. It's not a movie that people talk about a lot. But for some reason, the throwing stars so fascinated me that they would just randomly pop into conversation. Like every 6 months, I'll just bring up the throwing stars from Ninja Assassin, and nobody ever says like, "What are you talking about?" Like everyone who watches the movie, it's like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we know what you're talking about." So Ninja Assassin is about ninja assassins. It is literally the most generic. Like if I describe the plot, you're going to create a more complicated and better plot in your head. Like I might as well just say like lorem ipsum. You know that fake nonsense language they put on like newspapers and TV shows. It's like just make sounds, just make words that aren't and you can just make up. Yeah, it's literally a ninja from a cruel clan escapes, and they try to get him to kill him because he escaped. But then he goes to them and then he defeats them. Yeah, it's to say it's by the numbers makes it sound much more artful than it actually is. What makes this movie good is just odd little flourishes, commitment that's not really necessary, some nice little gimmicks that you can tell whoever came up with them thought they were going to be in a much better movie. So the lead character Raizo is played by Rain, a South Korean K-pop guy, I believe. And I looked him up, and he's one of those guys. He does everything. He's an actor. He's a singer. He's a dancer, and I know him mainly from being in Speed Racer. In fact, a lot of the crew and cast from Speed Racer are in this. So I love Speed Racer. I've seen it a million times. So it's very fun for me in that regard. It's directed by James McTeague, who did V for Vendetta, which pretty much everyone not named Alan Moore loved. And then he did Ninja Assassin, and then he just kind of disappeared. He did like 3 more movies that nobody cared about, and nothing since. It's written by J. Michael Straczynski, who's done a lot of good comics. He's done a lot of good movies, and he also wrote Ninja Assassin. I keep talking about how terrible this movie is, and it has one main saving grace in that it has charm. That's it. It has charm. The lead actor is charismatic. I'm blanking on her name. She plays Moneypenny. She's a little, you know, obviously she's younger and she's got kind of like more fat in her face. I was like, that's not Moneypenny, is it? Absolutely, it's Moneypenny from the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, and she's freaking fantastic. They got a couple other people, nobody who's a name, but you recognize them from a couple other movies you like. But mainly it's just kind of charming and fun. From even stuff from the opening fight, which is Raizo in a laundromat in Germany. Most of this movie is, I was going to say it's inexplicably set in Germany, but it's most likely for tax reasons and for financing issues. If you remember Uwe Boll, Uwe Boll had this brief career of, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, where there was these German tax incentives for film. So that's how this, kind of living meme of a guy got to make so many movies because they would get financed quite easily. So I'm thinking that's what's happening. It was, originally I thought it was written by the Wachowski siblings. I believe they were still brothers back then. But it looks like just they were producers among many other people. But I remember in the advertisement, their connection was very heavily mentioned. And also, like I said, they wrote and directed Speed Racer. I believe they wrote V for Vendetta, which I love. I got to rewatch that movie. But it's just kind of fun. It's generally directed quite well. There's a nice plot where two Interpol agents. By the way, I don't know anything about Interpol, but I'm pretty sure everything in every movie about Interpol is 100%. Like they, in this one, they have access to just like random soldiers and like safe houses and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure Interpol is mainly just like accountants in rooms, like forensic accountants. Now there is one character who's a forensic accountant, but like she mentions that like way at the end of the movie. It's like I thought you were just another like James Bond spy in Interpol. So there's, like I said, I wouldn't call it trash, exceedingly generic. But like every 5 minutes, there's something unique or fun or witty or charming. Like at one point, they're trying, like ninjas aren't real. And then the lead character, Moneypenny, she's like, I found this research that, hundreds of years ago, the price to kill a man for the Ninja Clan was 100 pounds of gold. So I tracked wire transfers for what is currently the worth of 100 pounds of gold. And I found this wire transfer. And I was like, am I nuts, or is that like a pretty good, like witty bit of writing? And, generally the pace is good. The fights are okay. The pace and the commitment by a few charming and or charismatic actors to a really mediocre script keeps it going and making it a fun bit. It's also one of those nice movies. It's not too long, so it feels like it's almost over as soon as you start. There's a kind of weird commitment to the lead character's tragic childhood in the ninja dojo, which, again, works. It works. It's good emotional stuff. At one point, he's introduced to some rival who, for some reason, I thought was Henry Golding, and then I did the math. I was like, there's no way this guy can be Henry Golding. It's the other guy who isn't Henry Golding, but was Henry Golding before Henry Golding. He was in one of the James Bond movies with Pierce Brosnan. He was like the main cool guy hero in The Man with the Iron Fists. It also feels like one of those movies where you're like, I gotta be the only person who liked this, and everyone else hated it. It wasn't a flop, but it didn't do that great. I remember at the time people were saying it was a flop, but it made $60 million off of a $40 million budget. And also, this was still in the heyday of DVDs, and I remember the DVDs and the poster and the DVD cover. I remember that everywhere for like an entire year. So I'm guessing it did pretty good on DVD. Not good enough for a sequel, although it's a little unclear because there's like fan-made sequel trailers, and then there's a movie called Ninja Assassins 2, but it doesn't look like they ever went back to the well. I just kind of assumed this was a career killer for Rain, but I looked him up and he's doing just fine in South Korea still. This movie came out like 12 years ago and he's only in his mid-30s right now. It's a fun, stupid movie with probably the worst blood I've ever seen in cinema. The blood looks like Pepto-Bismol. The blood is so distinctly wrong for film that whenever I mention it, for people who only saw it in the theaters 12 years ago, they're like, oh yeah, I remember two things. I remember the throwing stars and I remember the blood. The blood literally has the consistency of Pepto-Bismol. Now let's talk about the throwing stars because I was utterly fascinated with this, and apparently everyone else who ever has seen this movie is also. So back in the day, we had this thing called Papillion Days. And in Nebraska, it was basically just a fair. It would happen once a year. And they would have all these, different rides and different booths. And then, in the mid-'80s, it was kind of like the tail end of the Kung Fu phase, but it was the start of the ninja craze. And so they had throwing stars. They would have all kinds of throwing stars, and they're all trash. They're all like those, the small ones, and they would, stick into a tree, maybe. But I always wondered, what is the point of this? It doesn't feel like it's any kind of a real fatal thing. Oh, god damn. The throwing stars of Ninja Assassin look like they each weigh 5 to 10 pounds. They're huge. If you ever had a personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut, back in the day, they used to have Pizza Huts at all the American airports, so you might have gotten one there. They're the size of a personal pan pizza. They look like they weigh 5 to 15 pounds, and they absolutely shred everything. Now, we get to see a couple of people killed by them, and that's devastating. But we also get to see a car hit by them, a couple dozen of them, and that is almost equally devastating. This is an absolutely fascinating weapon. Speaking of weapons, one of the things I like is they didn't go too heavy with swords. Usually ninja movies become obsessed with the sword, but a sword is a weapon that has a very particular range, of course, and usage. The main weapon for this, and they mix it up, is, I don't know what it's called. It's a chain with some sort of like scythe blade at the end of it. So that was done pretty darn well, except for when it was absolutely horrible and it looked like CGI out of an early Blade movie or either one of the Ghost Rider movies. But overall, it's just a good, fun, dopey, stupid ass movie that everyone I know who's ever seen it legitimately likes, and I do too. So I'm going to edit this and maybe just watch it again tonight. Thanks for watching. Bye.